Hey, welcome to Deep Focus. I'm Mitch Goldman. This is part 2 of the 3-part program that I did November 13th, 2013 with the very beautiful Roy Campbell on the topic of Woody Shaw. And oh man, all the things that Deep Focus is all about, passion and special knowledge and commitment and inspiration, all those things come together on this program. It was such a delight to do, and so sad that Roy Campbell passed away not 2 months after this recording. So glad that I'm able to bring this to you right now, and this is part 2. If you're enjoying it, come find us. You can find Deep Focus on iTunes, on Google Play, on Spotify, Podcast Republic, Podbean, which hosts the podcast. MitchGoldman.podbean.com is the place to find all the subscription information and everything. Tons of stuff, all free, ad-free, money-back guarantee. And here is part 2 of November 13th, 2013. Roy Campbell on the topic of Woody Shaw on Deep Focus. Woody Shaw on stage at the Keystone Corner in San Francisco, September.
I was out there, wasn't it?
Yeah. Not really, Woody. That was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I
most
think of
definitely.
OPEC, you know.
I was just telling Mitch while we were listening to this that this
now,
tune.
Should we let him?
We like to
Let him talk a little.
feature.
He's still. Woody's still going.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Ballad standard, and this is one he especially arranged for him and Stafford James. This is
I thought you was taking.
All right, we'll come. We're going to come back. We're going to come back, Woody. You know, you're the star of the show, man. Woody, you are the star of the show. Woody Shaw. But our guest tonight, Roy Campbell. This is Deep Focus. I'm Mitch Goldman. We're listening to rare, unreleased recordings of the great Woody Shaw, and this one from Keystone Corner in San Francisco, which was one of the popular stops on the circuit back then, 1980, and around the country for great music like this. And Roy, what are your thoughts? I said I was going to ask you about the cats that he's playing with, and how's this band working for you?
Oh, this was a great band. They were tight, and with even being tight, there was sort of a looseness and a free spirit with their playing. And
everybody, each one of these guys has a strong, loud, clear voice of his own, but there's a group sound to it too.
Yes, and I think that's the height of what you can do with a band. You know, you can have, tightness and a degree of looseness, and everybody contributing their unique voice and at the same time, but it's one.
Now, that was an interesting tune, OPEC, which neither of us were intimately familiar with, but it seemed to have a kind of a two-part structure, and there was had this kind of ripping part of it, and then this kind of ballad feel to it, and each one of the guys did something very different with his solo. Any thoughts about the craft there?
Well, I think this is tune is a great example of how Woody thought rhythmically, and also when you listen to Woody's solos, they are complex harmonically, but yet with the complexity of harmony, you also hear the linear style of trumpet playing, where you hear a melodic line, or you'll hear a phrase, but you always hear and then the next phrase stops. And also, once again, there's no waste of notes. Unfortunately, today, I admire a lot of players' techniques, but at the same time, they just be running a lot of notes, but they don't know how to breathe and use space. And all the masterful players knew about that. Woody, Freddie, Coltrane, all the masters, Miles, they know how to use harmonic complexity and complex lines, but yet know how to phrase with spacing.
And a lot of those guys seem to be great admirers of Woody, too. I mean, you hear these things. All these guys had phenomenal things to say about him. Miles, textbook example, not somebody who went out of his way to say too many nice things about other musicians sometimes. But Woody, he had a lot of respect for.
He sure did. He was one that endorsed Woody to be on Columbia Records.
Right. Which that was a real prestige label at the time. No pun intended, saying a prestige label. But prestige wasn't even prestige at that time.
Well, Columbia, in terms of a jazz musician, that was the top of the game.
Yeah.
Prestige Records was, a jazz label, and Blue Note Records was jazz labels.
But I think Blue Note wasn't even active at that time.
They weren't pretty active.
Impulse wasn't active at that time.
No.
And Columbia kind of ran the game a little bit. And it's funny because I heard that too, that Miles recommended Woody to be signed. But I had always thought that he was kind of a protege of Dexter Gordon's, and Dexter Gordon was on Columbia. But apparently it was more Miles' say-so than anything else.
Yes, and also Woody did a album with Joe Zawinul, and there was a quotation in the liner notes at that time where Miles commented that Woody Shaw's was a unique voice on the trumpet, and what he was doing was different.
That was, I mean, I'm just trying to think for somebody who might not have been aware of the kind of mystique that Miles had at that time, especially, still has, and how heavy that was, how significant that was.
Yeah, because truthfully speaking, Miles was a shy person, and then he was an outspoken person too, and there was a lot of musicians that Miles criticized.
Right.
And
He said nasty, really outwardly dismissive things about some great musicians.
that's right. You know, Ornette Coleman and
Eric Dolphy.
yeah, Don Cherry. You know,
Yeah.
but he liked Woody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that time, that even surprised me. But I know an inside secret though. He liked Freddie and Lee, and when Miles used to get horns sometime, he would give them to Lee Morgan for about a month or two to break them in.
Really?
And then Lee would give him back the horn.
Wow. Now, how, as a trumpet player, talking to Roy Campbell about Woody Shaw, but more generally, to somebody who does not play a brass instrument, it might be surprising to hear that this piece of metal has to be quote-unquote broken in.
Yeah, well, it depends on the trumpet that you have. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, trumpets are unique. There's all kinds of mouthpieces, and when you get into being a trumpet player, it might take you a while to find the right mouthpiece that's suitable for you so you can do things with ease, you know, to build range and flexibility and maintain a sound from the lowest notes to the highest notes. And then trumpets, even though they look the same, they're not the same. There's different bore sizes. And you can get a trumpet or a mouthpiece by a company, and it's the same size, the same model, and it'll be completely different because like the mouthpieces are not the same. I mean, I have a size 6 mouthpiece. I have about maybe a dozen or more of them, and each one is different.
Wow.
You know, some of them will give you a brighter sound, a darker sound. And I play a Yamaha right now, and I brought that from my repairman. But he had another Yamaha, the same model. I couldn't play it. It wasn't for me. But at the same time, the one I chose, that was good for me. And it was similar to a horn I had years ago, which was a Bach 43. They patterned that horn after a Model 43 Bach. You know, it even looks the same.
Now, I seem to recall that Woody played a Yamaha, didn't he?
Yeah, he played a Yamaha trumpet because the trumpet he asked me to play was a Yamaha, and one thing he commented about that too. He said, "Yeah, you didn't have your trumpet and your mouthpiece, and you played my horn." And he said, "Yeah, you can play, you know." And it's not easy to play a horn that you're not accustomed to with a different size mouthpiece. But if you've been playing a long time, you'll know how to work it.
Now,
He also played a Bach flugelhorn and Bach cornet. Because there was a period of time in the early 80s when he was playing cornet.
And I think I heard a similar story about you and him, that as kids you both started out playing violin.
Yes, I played violin in junior high school for about 3 years. But another thing I will say about Woody had perfect pitch, and I also had perfect pitch. But like, you could play a chord on the piano, and please, sometimes after hours when I would hang out with Woody, somebody would play a chord, and Woody could tell you instantly what that chord. He said, "Oh, this is a C9 with a flat 5 and whatever." And,
wow.
And it might take me a minute to figure that out.
He was right there with it.
Yeah, he was right there with it. I mean, he knew it instantly.
Wow.
You know?
He also was said to have just photographic memory. He could just look at a chart and like, okay,
yes,
I got it.
He had that also, too. Mm-hmm.
He had, and this was one of the things when I was talking a little bit earlier about that sort of mystique and vibe that he projected. He seemed to do a lot of kind of personal development kind of things. I remember him finishing a set, coming off stage, going off in the side of the room somewhere and doing Tai Chi by himself. And
yeah, he used to do that in the Vanguard, too, during the breaks.
Yeah.
And stuff. Sometimes he would go outside. I would be with him outside, and he would be doing Tai Chi movements and stuff.
Yeah.
I think...
And he seemed to have to also other things, I can't remember specifically, that kind of like mental discipline sort of things of developing his mind and mind-body kind of stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that was relaxing for him, too, in between sets. Because when you're really playing, sometimes you really geared up and keyed up in another kind of level. I mean, from my experience, sometimes when I finish a gig, it's very hard for me to go to sleep right away.
Sure.
When I get home. And because, the adrenaline is up.
Yeah.
And playing trumpet, if you play in a certain way, too, it's like yoga and the chi. And
right, breathing. It's all about
breathing.
Breath, controlling breath, right? And
yeah.
energy that you're putting out.
And if you're a very fiery player and whatever, and play upstairs, you rouses the Kundalini,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
And it takes a while to come down from that and just ease back to, a state where you're not playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did Woody move a lot of air to play like that? Was he a high volume player? Was he?
Woody had a big sound, and he could get upstairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and when it was time, he was up there, man.
Yeah. Let me ask you about his tone. He's got a distinctive tone, and I don't know if it's the classical trumpet tone or if it's a conventional idea, but it seemed like his sound. Some trumpet players have kind of, I don't know if I described this correctly, but like almost like you can hear the outer edges of the sound and the inner center of it is kind of blank. And he just had a very full sound. He had a very, I don't know, maybe you could describe better than I can and what it takes to make that kind of sound.
Well, sound is something you develop. It's like he studied classical music and the whole thing, and at the same time, I think, I feel that your tone is something you hear in your mind first, and then it comes out the instrument, and it's also your life experience and what you experience musically. It's all there. It's your personality, you know what I mean? And if you know yourself, you're going to have a unique sound. There's people that play instruments and they never get past their influences,
you
know. And Woody had a mission, and he knew what he wanted, and that's how his own sound developed. I mean, sometimes when I used to hang out with Woody, we would just talk about great masters, and we would talk about Booker Little solos and some records, and Lee and Freddie and Fats Navarro and Don Barry. We would just be, like sparring and talking about different trumpeters we loved and admired. But at the same time, you can admire and be influenced by someone, but at the same time, if you know yourself, your own personality and your own uniqueness, I say, is based on your knowledge, wisdom, and experiences, and it comes out. And then Woody also would write about people and life experiences he had. He would make a composition, and I do the same thing too. Like Theme for Maxine is an example. Right. He wrote, that's for Maxine, his wife, and things like that,
Yeah, he's
And a great example is those records he did with Freddie, where you know who's when Freddie's soloing and Freddie is playing, and when Woody is playing,
Freddie. And if you're, I'm sure there's some listeners who know intimately the things we're talking about, and there's some who are scratching their heads saying, Freddie, who's Freddie? Freddie's Freddie Hubbard.
That's right.
Who was more or less roughly contemporary of Woody's. Maybe Freddie was a few years older.
Yeah.
And but they were, at the time, two of the. Freddie was another. Speaking of trumpeters, he was branded as that almost from the beginning, and he and Woody recorded together, two trumpets. They made, I think, 3 albums together.
That's right.
And that was anybody who loves a trumpet, it's a treat listening to those guys play.
And they also both played with Eric Dolphy.
Right, absolutely. And with Blakey.
Yeah.
And we could probably come up with 10 or 12 others that they both played with.
That's right.
But that's something. Any of this stuff, any of this music, if this strikes a chord with you, if you don't know Woody Shaw, by gum, go out and find those great records that he made on the Columbia label, on the Muse label, on the Prestige Contemporary, I think, also.
And Contemporary, that's right.
And he, some of them, quite honestly, I think are better than others, but there's not a stinker in the bunch, I don't think.
No, I agree with you.
And so
Woody always came to play and take care of business.
We are talking about the great Woody Shaw. Passed away, 1989, age 44. Hard to imagine. He seemed like he'd been around forever at the time, and looking back on it, he was really a relatively young man.
Yeah, for me, I believe that was the most tragic passing away of any jazz musician. Even Clifford Brown, Clifford died in a car accident, but when Woody passed away, that was sad, man.
Yes. It's and you lose a loss like that, it doesn't go away. It doesn't heal, really. It's just a hole where there should have been a whole lot more music to come from him. But we are celebrating his music tonight. This show is called Deep Focus. I'm Mitch Goldman, and Roy Campbell's my guest. And Roy, you got, now, big part of this show, big part of the whole reason we do this show is to remind you, my friendly listeners, you good-looking, brilliant people that you are, how of the opportunity you have to get out of your house, get out of your car, and go out and be with this music, breathe with this music, be part of this music, respond to this music, hear this music, be healed by this music. And you've got some opportunities coming your way. Why? Just to hear the great Roy Campbell. here in New York City, and probably other places. I know we have listeners outside the New York City area, and Roy is a regular, steady touring musician, and you should all look out for an opportunity to hear him. But you got a gig coming up this Saturday night, as I understand it.
Yes, that gig is with Abram Pfeffer, Michael Wimberly, and Adam Lane. Adam Lane is a band leader, and it's going to be at a space called the Firehouse in Brooklyn, and it's on Forster, I think, Avenue or Forster Street. So look up the Firehouse on the internet or on Google, and the show starts at 8 p.m. And
That's a smoking band right there.
Yes, and we're going to be doing some spirituals by Mahalia Jackson and some other various spirituals in the Afro-American tradition. But we'll also be employing it our way.
All right. That's one not to miss. And then you've got, I know April 5th, you're playing Soto Velez.
Yes, that's with Other Dimensions in Music. Other Dimensions in Music has been together for 32 years.
Wow.
With the same personnel, with Daniel Carter on flute and trumpet and other saxophones, clarinet, and William Parker on bass and various instruments, and Charles Downs on drums, and myself on trumpet, flugelhorn, and flute. And we'll be playing at 8 p.m. April 5th, and that's the Soto Velez Center at, I think, 108 Suffolk Street.
What day of the week is April 5th?
It's a Friday night.
Right. Oh,
Friday night.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Great night for you to get out of the house and hear some music. And then you're doing I-Beam the next night, right?
Yes, with Iran Alicia. And I-Beam is also on Brooklyn. I do not remember the address. I have Jazzheimer's, but
they'll find it. And not only that, but Roy Campbell. You should, if you don't know Roy Campbell's music, go to roycampbellmusic.com and learn more about Roy and what's coming up and recordings that you've done and dates coming up and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for coming through and for inspiring a show. I don't know if anybody else is enjoying it. I know I'm having fun, and I'm loving the music, and I'm learning all kinds of things about a favorite musician of mine, Woody Shaw. And, maybe we should play the last cut from this date at Keystone Corner, because you know what, Roy, we got a lot more music.
Oh,
I can tell already we're not going to get to play it all.
I know.
but we'll squeeze in as much as we can. And I got to say, I wouldn't give up a minute of any of the great insights you've had for another phrase of music from Woody that I hadn't heard before, because your insight is invaluable. You know this cat, man. I knew you'd be. I figured you would, but I mean, you're blowing away all my expectations. So we're going to go back to Keystone Corner. And this next and last track of this set, by the way, there were 3 sets that night. This is just the first of 3 sets.
Wow.
I didn't even bring the other 2. Maybe we'll save that for part 2 of Woody Shaw.
I would love to do a part 2.
We'll get there. We will get there. And I'm wondering if I should announce this track or just tell people, because it's kind of a surprise, and it's one that we know from. It was an old song when Charlie Parker played it. And yeah, what do you think? Do you remember? Do you want to announce that tune? And do you remember? I don't remember ever hearing Woody play that.
Yeah, the next tune is going to be Old Folks. That's a tune Charlie Parker recorded numerous times and made very famous. I have never heard Woody play this, and that would be a pleasure. And also, I see one of my favorite songs here is Solar. It's on there, too, and I would love to hear that.
Part two of this program. Watch this space. Roy Campbell is our guest. The show is called Deep Focus, and we're talking about Woody Shaw. This is music from Woody, unless you happen to be at the Keystone Corner September 25th 5th, did I say? 1980. You have never heard this music. But you might have heard Woody with the Cats, because it's Steve Toure on trombone, Stafford James playing the bass, Mulgrew Miller playing piano, and the great Victor Lewis on the drums. All those guys played many, many nights like this one with Woody. But we're going to the Keystone Corner on WKCR.
That's why he recorded.
Sorry. Okay, I should have said stand by. I didn't. That's the end of the first
Ladies
set.
and gentlemen, let's have a big hand for Steve Turey on trombone. Old folks.
Yeah, that was a feature for Steve Turey, Old Folks.
Now, what I didn't think about, you just reminded me of, Roy Campbell, is a story Steve Turey told me that basically his whole career got started in that room, Keystone Corner. I think he was in high school going there to see Rahsaan Roland Kirk. And that was, and Rahsaan said, yeah, what do you got, kid? And that was how it all began. And there he is with Woody, and Woody maybe knew that, maybe didn't, maybe it didn't matter, but he said, Steve, your time to shine.
Yeah.
He's very generous. I mean, these songs, they're very long songs, not a lot of tracks in a set, and he gave everybody had as much chance to solo as he did, except Victor, I don't think, took a solo in that whole set, barely.
So far, no.
So far. Okay, part 2 of this program, we are now going into hour 3. So let me just say, this is WKCR-FM New York. My name is Mitch Goldman. The program, Jazz Alternatives, of course, is the show every weeknight from 6 to 9 p.m., but when we do one of these, we call it Deep Focus, and we have a deep focus on the great Woody Shaw, and our guest tonight is the fantastic Roy Campbell, band leader, trumpeter, composer, improviser, historian, interpreter, insight generator, Roy Campbell. And yeah, we just, man, I mean, you know, we're kind of having the same experience listening to this music in the studio that you're having at home, and listening to Woody Shaw. And we talked a bunch about this band. Steve Turey up on the front line on trombone, rhythm section of Mulgrew Miller, Stafford James on bass, Mulgrew on piano, Victor Lewis in this case on drums. I'm going to ask you an unfair question. I'm going to put you on the spot, Roy, because you grew up you and I grew up just a couple miles down the road from each other. And when I was a kid, well, also a couple of years away from each other, when I was a kid, we used to play stickball, we used to play kickball, we used to play touch football in the street. And there'd be two captains. I don't remember how we decided who was going to be captain. Two captains would stand up on one side and everybody else would stand on the other side. And they would take turns choosing who was going to be on their team. And then we would play.
I did the same thing.
See, yeah, I figured, because, we're almost neighbors.
Right.
Now, Captain Roy, standing on the other side of the room are Steve Toure, Mulgrew Miller, Stafford James, and Victor Lewis. Which one of those guys are you going to pick to be on your team? Who's your first choice? Because it was a big deal who was your first choice. Sometimes we even said one team got the first choice and the other captain got to pick number 2 and 3.
Well, I really like Stafford James. I had the honor to play with him. I played with all of them except, I think, Victor Lewis. Because at the time when I did play with Woody, Tony Reduce was on drums.
Yeah, great drummer from, I think, from Newark.
But then, again, I have to take that back. I played with Victor with Bobby Watson and Curtis Lundy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
In a jam session in New Jersey years ago. Yeah, that's right. And
he's a great drummer. I mean, any band that he's in, he's a great timekeeper.
Oh, yeah. He's a great drummer.
You couldn't go wrong with any of these guys, I would say. But we were talking about
Victor, his spirit reminds me of art. He's got that, that spirit. Not that he plays like Art Blakey, but he has that kind of spirit as a drummer.
How would you describe that?
I just did.
I guess so.
There's lots of drummers. Roy Haynes has a certain spirit. Elvin Jones had a certain spirit. They play drums, but they have their own stamp and finesse about being a drummer.
Well, all those guys also they're driving the bus when they're playing.
They drive a band home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're the type of drummers. If you fluffing or you tired, you don't stand up before them.
And Stafford James, we were talking about, he's kind of almost seems to be writing charts playing bass. He's his rhythmic approach and his harmonic approach.
He was different, and he really didn't. From my point of view, he never got the recognition as the bass player that he should have. He was unique, you know, and the times I've played with him, we really would lock in and feel each other and play together. You know what I mean?
I do. I could imagine. Yeah.
It's like.
And he worked with Woody for years.
Yes, he did. And they were partners,
Yeah.
Because they and I was saying earlier, they played together with Gary Bartz. That album, I think Gary recorded at the Left Bank Society. Yeah, that's a favorite of mine.
Yes. Yeah, great album. One to look out for.
Yeah.
If you don't have that one.
Yeah, it
Gary
might be
Bartz.
hard to get. I don't know if that's still in print.
I think if they're all typing in the computer on eBay at the same time, they might.
Okay.
Whoever types fastest is going to get that one. There's not a lot of copies of that one floating around. Gary Bartz, Bartz.
Yeah,
the Left Bank Society in Baltimore.
Right.
Yes, one to look out for sure. And Woody turns up on as a sideman on a pretty fair number of people's tracks. He was a Blue Note house musician practically in the mid-'60s. And as you mentioned, Eric Dolphy, one of the people who paved the way, and invited him. I think he was 19, to move to Paris. And that Paris reunion band that you talked about, that was hearkening back to 64, 65. He would play, there's a place, Le Chat qui Pêche.
Right.
That Woody played quite a bit with A.T., Arthur Taylor, and I'm trying to remember who was part of that scene at that time. And and later, though, he also, I just happen to have a list here of some things he recorded. An album, Home, he made with Gary Bartz in 69. He was one of the jazz messengers in the early 70s, 72, 73. He's on a number of those albums. I've got a little discography I found here. Roy Brooks, Chick Corea, he's on Tones for Jones Bones, a popular album, 66, actually.
Right. Mm-hmm. That was on Vortex label, I think.
I think you're right. You're right.
Atlantic label. Mm-hmm.
Nathan Davis, I think, was part of that Paris scene.
Right.
And he's on a few of his from the mid-60s. Dolphy, he's on Iron Man, great album, and Conversations. Booker Irvin, he's on a Booker Irvin album.
That's
from
on
68.
Blue Note.
Yes.
I love that album.
Textbook tenor. Sonny Fortune, Kenny Garrett. He's on Kenny Garrett's first record. Benny Golson, and he's on. Made a few albums with Dexter. See, here's what we were talking about. He's on Homecoming, that first one.
Homecoming, and the other one at Carnegie Hall. Yeah,
Gotham City.
Right.
And quite a list. Joe Henderson at the Lighthouse.
That's where it was. The Lighthouse.
Lighthouse, yes. And in California, Lionel Hampton, George Gruntz, Louis Hayes. They were in. I think they were co-leaders of that band at one point. Andrew Hill. Those are some great records. Check those out. Woody Shaw playing with Andrew Hill.
And McCoy Tyner too.
Yes. And Bobby Hutcherson.
Was it? Expansions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
On
1968.
Right.
Azar Lawrence. Jackie Mack with Jackie McLean. He's on Bout Soul. That's a great record. And
Demon's Dance also. That was a real great one.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes. Pharoah Sanders. He's on Deaf, Dumb, and Blind.
Mm-hmm.
And Horace Silver.
Yeah, Blue Note.
Yep. Mal Waldron, who you mentioned. And he's, Larry Young, Unity, we talked about. And that album, Zawinul, Joe Zawinul, you talked about, too.
Right.
So there's, keep an eye out for those Woody Shaw records when you're, maybe if you're walking up Broadway and you see the guy out there with the, next to the body oils and the incense, he's got a few LPs, thumb through. If you see anything with Woody Shaw on it, grab it.
That's right.
It's worth the $2 he's charging for that.
I'm surprised Blue Note never recorded Woody as a leader.
Yeah, that's true. He was, especially, a guy like that he was writing back then.
Right, because he played with Horace, Andrew, all the guys, man. And then later on, they did those albums with Freddie Hubbard on Blue Note.
Right. That should have been his call.
They should have did that a long time ago.
Recorded
Woody as a leader, but they never did.
Next time I invent a time travel machine, we're going to go back to the offices of Blue Note Records and straighten some things out. I like it. Oh, this is Deep Focus, and Deep Focus is what we have put on the great Woody Shaw, and Roy Campbell is our guest. I could not come close to summoning the information about Woody without you here, Roy. This is a treat, man, getting to talk with you about this music. There was one particular sideman that caught your eye and ear playing with Woody, and he's on the set we're going to hear next.
That's Carter Jefferson.
Now that we're talking about Woody Shaw not always getting his due. Carter Jefferson is somebody who, I don't know, history is not maybe being as kind to as it should.
He was a great player also, and Carter and I used to hang out together, and we used to play at jam sessions together in Harlem. There used to be a club on, I think, 133rd and 7th Avenue called Lickety Split.
Huh.
And sometimes I used to be doing gigs there with various people, and Carter would come by there, and we would jam together, and we used to play together in New Jersey and the Bronx. And Carter and Woody played with Art Blakey on the same time. They were on the front line.
Yes.
At a certain point, and they recorded like 3 records on Prestige together. And Carter always used to call me Big Brother. I don't know why.
Now, I didn't know him, but I get the sense he was a character. He was
He was a very nice guy, man. Both of them were nice, man, you know. And Carter had a beautiful spirit, man, you know.
And he played with Woody for a long time, too.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to a town in Sweden called Kristianstad. The date is June 7th, 1978. June is a great time of year to be in Sweden.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. The days just last forever.
Forever, yeah. The sun don't set.
That's right. So that was what was going on. And great band that all these guys, once again, you know, that short list of people that were part of this quintet with Woody Shaw over the years, all these guys made many a date with Woody. And I'll toss names at you, and maybe if you want to say a little something about. On piano, Onaje Allen Gumbs.
Of course. I've known Onaje since the early 70s, and we've played together a few times, and he lives in Co-op City, and I see him every so often.
Right up the street. Mm-hmm. And he's a great pianist. He's a great arranger.
That's right.
He's a great record producer.
Sure. Yeah, and he does a lot of things with singers, too. He does arranging, and he's a music director for a lot of singers, record dates, and, you know, live performances.
Carter Jefferson.
And he has his own band also,
right.
too.
Yeah. Carter Jefferson, I didn't mention, he's playing tenor and soprano saxophones. Onaje on piano. Clint Houston is the bassist.
Yeah, I knew Clint from when he used to play with Charles Tolliver.
Yes.
Years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when I first met him at the East, playing with Charles Tolliver.
Speaking of demanding music from trumpeters.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, it's Victor Lewis on drums.
Yeah, cool.
So you've never heard this.
No, I haven't.
They've never heard this.
And I'm waiting to hear it.
All right. Come on. Let's get on the WKCR Express. And we are off to Kristianstad, Sweden, 1978. It's Deep Focus on Mitch Goldman. We are listening to the music of Woody Shaw with the equally great Roy Campbell here in the studio. And this is Rassan's Run on WKCR. Mm-hmm. Not there, but there. Is part 2 of the 3-part podcast. The Deep Focus on the topic of Woody Shaw with my guest, Roy Campbell. And before you pop over to part 3, you should know, let me invite you to subscribe to Deep Focus on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or Podcast Republic or Podbean. You can go to mitchgoldman.podbean.com and see all the past episodes listed. I think it's a couple of dozen, and there's more going up every week. And it's all free and advertisement free and all that good stuff. So, go and if you enjoyed that program, listen to part 3 of Roy Campbell on Woody Shaw, Deep Focus.